Our 6.4 was the 9:30 consideration of introduction of new staff of the Lake County Resource Conservation District and an annual update of the Board of Supervisors. And Terry, it looks like you're introducing this.
I am. Thank you very much. Terry Luxon, Chief Climate Resiliency Officer and Tribal Liaison. I'm happy today to bring Julia Sullivan, the new Executive Director of the Lake County RCD, which has undergone a transformation in the last 2 years. That includes hiring a full-time staff, securing millions of dollars in funding, and much more. And I'll turn it over to Julia.
Thank you, Terry. Good morning, everyone. I am Julia Sullivan, the new Executive Director. I prepared a 15-minute presentation, although I know we're significantly behind, so I'll try to breeze through this and share some highlights with you of the past year. So just want to start by sharing our organizational purpose. The Lake County RCD is dedicated to the locally led, long-term, sustainable conservation and stewardship of natural resources and agriculture in Lake County, California. And we are currently working to actualize this mission through several different program areas. So we have watershed restoration, sustainable agriculture, forest health, the Lake County Fire Safe Council, and climate partnerships. And then we have operations, which is less a program and more a collection of activities that enable and support the rest of our work. I just want to provide a snapshot of kind of our annual budget growth over the past 5 years. You can see prior to this current fiscal year, we were hovering at or below about $500,000 in terms of our annual budget. That's including both our county tax income and our income from grants and contracts. And in this most recent fiscal year, that transformed dramatically. So we currently have $2 million in grant funding and expect to be trending in this direction for the next fiscal year as well. And that is entirely the result of the very dedicated work of a couple consultants that took up the Lake County RCD as a bit of a passion project, one of whom has since joined our organization as staff. Worked really closely with our existing staff at the time and our very committed and capable board to apply for and bring on tons of funding. So we're grateful that they kind of catalyzed this next phase of the organization and excited to share some of what that looks like with you. Before we dive into it, just wanted to share kind of a programmatic breakdown of our funding. So you can see the vast majority of our funds right now are kind of concentrated in the Lake County Fire Safe Council and Forest Health Program areas. As well as a good chunk kind of in watershed restoration, which represents really the historic kind of bread and butter of the RCD. We have a sliver there for sustainable ag, operations, and climate partnerships as well. We currently have a staff of 12, and 5 of those staff members are part-time. The 7 that you see pictured here are all full-time staff, myself included, that have joined the organization since July of this past year. So I won't go through each of their names individually, but this includes our finance team, myself, our ag staff, and several valuable additions to both our Forest Health and Fire Safe Council programs. So I am relieved to have a break from hiring for a bit and thrilled that we have such a capable and full team. Okay, I want to just touch on briefly each of our program areas. I will not speak to all the funding that's listed here, but I did want to include it just to give you a sense for the different sources that we're pulling from to support each of these program areas. We have a handful of mitigation projects funded by Caltrans, both at Middletown Trailside Park as well as along Highway 29 near the intersection with Westlake Road. And we're also fortunate to have some funding from the California Association of Resource Conservation Districts to support the Kalanipo Wetlands Restoration Project, which is over at the Wright Preserve in the Big Valley Wetlands area just south of Lakeport. It's a really exciting project to restore 32 acres of historic wetlands, reconnect them with Clear Lake, and I think a good example of the kind of watershed restoration work that we want to be doing more of moving forward. Just a few images here of some site prep and tree tubes, seedlings going in at Middletown Trailside Park. I will breeze through these though. Next is our Sustainable Agriculture Program. This program is all of 6 months old. So we had Noah Cornell join our team as a soil and water specialist back in September. And he's done a great job kind of helping us manage a handful of small scale projects, but also really define the direction for this program. So I want to just share a few highlights there. We have a couple pots of funding that are supporting some technical assistance and outreach-oriented work right now, including hosting a 2-day workshop that will be facilitated entirely in Spanish in early April at Six Sigma Ranch, focused on the topics of agricultural soil health and irrigation efficiency. Noah will also be working with irrigation operators, so anyone who utilizes a drip irrigation system, to conduct free efficiency tests, so distribution uniformity evaluations. Those will test the efficiency of those systems and provide recommendations for how to improve it. He'll also be hosting a handful of additional watershed management workshops this spring. So that's an example of kind of the outreach-oriented work that we've been doing. You all may remember that we also partnered with the Community Development Department to submit a pre-proposal to the Department of Conservation Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Program last month. We're hopeful that we'll be invited to submit a full proposal later this year, and that if that were funded, we would be able to take on a $500,000 kind of planning effort to do a really robust assessment of the ag sector in Lake County, and ultimately an evaluation of some different incentivizing tools to support producers and to support agricultural lands conservation, whether that's through easements or direct payments to farmers. We're excited to hopefully explore some of those questions. Moving on to forest health. Historically, the RCD has really focused on working in very close partnership with the NRCS to provide technical assistance directly to private forest landowners and support them in enrolling in federal cost share programs like EQIP. We are committed to continuing doing this work. It's a really important part of our portfolio, but there is no shortage of forest health work to do in Lake County. And so in addition to this kind of core area, we're excited to expand the horizons of this program a bit and take on some larger kind of landscape scale projects. So we're doing that now. We applied as a partner on a couple CAL FIRE grants in this past round with a couple Napa-based entities, so both Napa RCD and Napa FireWise led applications that we were a part of. We're also applying for community wildfire defense grant funding to support some larger scale kind of countywide initiatives. And I'd be happy to talk more about those later. Just a few images here of our forest health team doing what they do. That's Erica Lundquist in the center with a couple of our staff members out on a property providing technical assistance to a landowner. Okay, the Lake County Fire Safe Council. We've been incredibly busy with the Lake County Fire Safe Council the past few months. You can see on the left-hand side here, we've recently closed out 3 different funding sources, and I'll provide some highlights on each of those. So we were fortunate to have funding from the California Fire Safe Council through a couple different streams. The first is County Coordinator. That funding supported all the activities you see on the left-hand side here. So almost 20 interviews to FireWise communities, 500 emergency go bags were assembled and distributed to community members. We developed and hosted 2 pretty big county-wide all-day workshops that were professionally facilitated and designed to build really directly on this lineage of work that this network and organizations and community members have been doing in Lake County for so long. But it's really served as a foundation to kind of from which the Lake County Fire Safe Council is now launching kind of into this next phase. We had defensible space funding as well, which despite some very challenging delays on the part of the funder, this pilot project was a wild success. There was a really high interest, high demand from Lake County residents. We had almost 300 requests for services and ultimately treated over 107 homes. Lastly, we had funding, U.S. Forest Service funding through coalitions and collaboratives. That funding enabled, in part, hiring for my position, as well as our conservation program manager. It enabled us to develop our mobile tool cache program, which we're in the process of rolling out now. That will provide free rental of critical tools and equipment to residents to complete fuels reduction activities on their properties. And lastly, we completed a strategic planning process for the Lake County Fire Safe Council recently, which I'm happy to share our board voted to adopt last week. We went through several rounds of revisions. The final document is ambitious and reflects a lot of community and partner input, and we're excited to deliver on that strategic plan. Just wanted to share the renewed organizational purpose of the Fire Safe Council as well. It's inevitably a little bit wordy, but I think it's a great statement. The Lake County Fire Safe Council convenes partners to coordinate wildfire resilience work and standardize messaging across Lake County and empowers all residents with the educational, physical, and financial resources to proactively protect their family, property, and community from wildfire. So this has been, again, a huge emphasis of the RCD in the past few months. And then lastly, I won't spend much time here. John already spoke to the APGP funding and the biomass project. Those are part of what we consider kind of our climate partnerships. And then, of course, we have this separate category of funding which support our operations. This critical set of activities that are super important to our growing and evolving organization and extremely difficult to fund. So we continue to scrap for capacity building dollars to support things like grant writing and partnership building and financial management, all of the activities that really underpin all of our program areas. We are building the plane as we fly it. So just want to leave you with a few kind of high-level takeaways. I hope I've conveyed to you through my fast talking that we've increased our staff capacity and our programmatic offerings a lot over the last year. And we are really committed to continuing to evolve to better serve Lake County. One channel for that energy is our upcoming strategic planning process. So we did just do this for the Fire Safe Council specifically, but are looking forward to taking on a strategic planning process for the RCD itself. Starting this spring probably and going into the fall, so stay tuned for updates on that. We will definitely be soliciting input from all of our partners and many of the people in this room as we embark on that process. I also want to mention some of our regional connections. I understand that Lake County is often left out of regional initiatives and different collaborations, but that is not the case with the North Coast Durable Collaborative. This is a coalition of North Coast RCDs. I think it's up to 12 now, spanning the whole North Coast region. And in addition to enabling us to partner on some regional grants and really exciting initiatives like the North Coast Soil Hub, this group of RCDs represents an incredible wealth of experience and knowledge for us to draw on. So Lake County RCD is in uncharted territory kind of as far as this organization goes in Lake County, but we have incredible models to draw on, incredibly supportive partners that have been kind of bringing us along through this transformation. Couple more here. I do just want to highlight our special district status. So we are a special district of the state of California. We're a governmental entity, non-regulatory, of course, but this does mean a couple things. It means we can serve as a CEQA lead agency, particularly when that comes to forest health work. This is a critical role. It can slow things down. It can be a bit of a bottleneck, and we are trying to equip ourselves with the knowledge and expertise in-house, on staff, to be able to play this role more reliably for our partners and within Lake County. The other thing I want to mention is that we're also able to contract directly with the county and with other government agencies, whether that's CAL FIRE or Caltrans or CDFW. We do get the vast majority of our funding through competitive grant rounds, but those require a huge commitment of time and funding. And in certain situations, when an entity, whether it's the county or another state entity, has funds available and secured and lacks the capacity to implement whatever project those funds are meant to support, the RCD can really serve as kind of the implementation arm for that entity and step in via a direct contract to make that work happen. Okay, last point here. I do just want to highlight our collaborative capacity. RCDs by design are empowered to work directly with private landowners, whether that's through our work with agricultural producers and farmers or private forest landowners. That really is the basis of much of our programming and ensures that we stay really grounded in kind of local realities. But in addition to that, I think that we are uniquely capable of convening partners and facilitating collaboration at multiple scales. I think at their best, RCDs can really be connective forces, and I'm super motivated. I know our staff is super motivated to continue figuring out what that looks like in Lake County and to kind of delivering on that promise. So it's been a really exciting year, really busy. Thank you for the opportunity to share, and I know we're behind schedule, but happy to answer any questions.
No, thank you for that. We are a little behind, but we need to know this information. I appreciate you still going through it, and we still are going to ask the questions and go through this the way we need to.
Great.
So don't worry about that. I see we have one pin up, Supervisor Pyska.
So I'm just incredibly grateful for this progress. It wasn't very long ago that Dr. Lyons was looking at shutting this down, the RCD. It was a skeletal board, a skeletal staff. We had Lori. the only person staffing the Fire Safe Council, but a willingness from the community to engage. And that's really, I think, what was the driver behind all of this progress, is we have all of these partners who want to step up and do this work. And so the convening and the collaborating has really shown through, Julia, in both of your all-day events, bringing the partners together in the Fire Safe Council meetings, kind of bringing that up to the next level, and your capacity to write grants. And Megan's here, and that was several years ago that she came on as a consultant to help write grants, which is one of the things that we've struggled with here in the county. So this, and I hope everyone can see that this just goes much beyond fire mitigation, which is something that the RCD kept saying, we're more than this. We need to work on soil health and watershed restoration and forest health and ag. And those are all the programs that you're really growing by leaps and bounds. So I can't be more grateful to all of you for just digging in and pushing this forward, because it was a heavy lift, and it still is, and you always have my support.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Terry, to add before?
Nope. I just want to thank all the RCD, the executive director, the former executive director, and board members and staff.
Actually, there is something else I want to add. You mentioned difficulty with funding, and last year we saw that with the Defensible Space Grant through the Fire Safe Council at the state. Both Chair Crandall and I supported that program to front load it, because we knew how important it was to get defensible space programs out to those people that are unable or can't afford to do it, because we are only as strong as our most vulnerable people in our county. And so this is a program that we're going to continue to champion. We got 100 houses done this year, and I know you have high goals for the coming years. Now, the federal funding freezes are impacting a lot of the programs that we have. We have $10 million of community wildfire defense grants that have already been awarded, and in most cases contracted out in our county, and those funds are frozen. So I am going on my trip to DC this week. That is something that I am prioritizing, making sure that those funds get released, because there's no world in where that's acceptable here. We have spent the last many years building the capacity, developing the contractors, staff for the RCD and Fire Safe Council. We have to continue to have this funding, or we're never going to reach the goals that we've set. And the goals that we have set is to be an adaptive community so that we can live with wildfire. And we know that's our reality in Lake County. So I am going to continue to push for those federal dollars to be released, as are our federal lobbyists. So I wanted you all to know that. The RCD's been developing a white paper for me to take with me to my policy committees so that we can speak directly to everyone that will listen. So thank you.
All right, so I'll open it up to the public. If there's anyone from the public who'd like to come up and talk about this presentation, has any questions, statements?
Hi, Elaine Brown. Thank you so much. You talked about watershed, and there's erosion and beautification involved in our forests that have been burnt out. So I'll just read what I wrote. It'd be great if 8th grade grads and senior grads in the area and even surrounding areas, if they would plant an acre of forest for grad projects. Then in 30 years, those students can take their families to see their work. There would probably be groups like the Kiwanis and such that could possibly be tapped into as funding sources. I heard from a former Cobb resident that Douglas firs are beetle resistant. It may not be a local pine, so some are into the original plant life. Just a thought.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that suggestion. We are both through our Fire Safe Council programming and also the Forest Health Program, thinking a lot about what it would look like to work more directly with local schools and develop educational curriculums in partnership with them. So funding dependent, of course, but we definitely want to be able to focus more time and energy on that in the future. So thank you for that. Yeah.
All right, anybody else that would like to comment on this? Me on Zoom? I'll close public input, and look to end this item. I really quickly just wanted to ask a question because I've seen collaborative capacity empowered to work directly with private landowners. I know all of our districts, there's situations where the private landowners own areas that are in some of the watersheds or in some of the older tributaries. Maybe that's something to look into because I know that there's a lot of blockages at times that cause flooding and whatnot, so we can look into that. It would really help, I think, I know you have Scotts Creek, and I mean, we all have these tributaries. We all have these outstanding situations that have been going on for years, not just 5 years, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will just share that we've been having some exciting early conversations with CDFW in the past few weeks about different ways that we might be able to collaborate. They have a pretty well-funded watershed restoration program, grant funding, that we may be able to access to support that kind of aquatic and terrestrial restoration work. So definitely eager to get more into that and trying to find ways that make sense. Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and close this item, and we appreciate, again, this presentation.